Trump DOJ failing again to get this new indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James. She had clashed with Donald Trump previously. It is a failure in a do-over to go after someone on the so-called enemies list. David, I wanted to get you on this, and, you know, there's so much negativity. I'm going to begin with something you said that was true. Call that a intellectual compliment, if you will. But it was months ago when some of these appointments were coming in, and you said, look, if these are going to be the wannabe Stasi police state types, you've put together a pretty incompetent bunch. And you remember saying that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and you were making the point that we can talk about law and ethics and how things work, and we do that a lot. But that this wasn't exactly, I don't know, because you don't want to put a positive spin on it, but this wasn't exactly J. Edgar Hoover level organized individuals. Where does your point, which was possibly prescient, and this utter failure over, and I put the faces up, we might put them back up, of how many cases have already collapsed and dismissed tonight, they failed to re-indict her?
Well, look, they've been doing these kinds of strikes on the executive capabilities of the United States government through DOJ, through other things, driving out talented people. And then they've recruited they've said the people we want, especially in the DOJ, are the people who will do whatever Donald Trump wants. Lawyers have long careers in front of them, and lawyers are very attentive to what their community thinks about them. And they know, yeah, you can get a little bit of a leg up temporarily by doing dirty work for Donald Trump, but your career is going to last decades. And you want to know, do I have the respect of my community? And the people in the Department of Justice, the federal Department of Justice, they mostly have pretty good career options. Most of them are making big economic sacrifices to serve the public. So if you say to them, we want you to disserve the public, they're going to say, and for this, I'm working late, making a fraction of what I could make in the private sector. For this, I'm not going to do it. And so the good ones go, and you're left with the Schmendricks.
Now we're going to turn to something totally different, and we think pretty interesting. Donald Trump going left, not just a little left, but all the way into the far left land of redistribution. For context, you have the video that everyone has seen. A kind of glee over perhaps Zohran Mamdani's winning swagger, but also quite directly Donald Trump in the Oval Office saying maybe some of those Democratic Socialist policies are all good.
Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job.
What do they agree on? I mean, Mamdani disagrees with Donald Trump on a list so long, I can't give it all to you, from policing to foreign policy to how you deal with diversity. But on economics, Trump has repeatedly tried to claim the mantle of populism while not always delivering, something we were discussing with Professor Krugman. And remember, Mamdani is pushing out what are basically a type of distribution policies where you tax the rich higher and the benefits of that go to other people. I am simplifying, but here we go. Some of Trump's policies are, whether you've heard about them or not, trying a version, however perverted, of socialism, as these headlines attest. Tax the rich proposals are typically considered something of not even the current Democratic Party, but the old left or the new Mamdani wing. And now Trump is tapping some very big billionaires to get in on the action. So here's an important story you may not have heard much about. Trump this week hosting the Dell family there, Michael and Susan Dell, of course, from that big company. They are very rich billionaires. And they were announcing a $6 billion program where they will give money to essentially about 25 million children, and it's redistributive because they're billionaires and they're excluding recipients who are from high-income area households. So right there you have something that sounds like redistribution. Indeed, it mimics past programs we've heard about, like so-called baby bonds. And yet there is a big wrinkle, because they're not actually doing this through the overall tax code for everyone, which would actually address national wealth inequality. They are sort of tapping a billionaire friend who then has a lot more sway over the policy than all of us normal voters. Dell even said that under one plan, he wanted to limit his gift to just a certain group. Initially talked about making donations to just children in Texas rather than other places. Now, a more transformative or holistic approach would be through the tax code overall and not letting the billionaires have extra sway as if they don't have enough policy power just because they are the ones chipping in. I want to bring back Paul Krugman on this story. There's plenty of caveats, but I'd love for you to speak first to the headline that this MAGA president and some conservative-leaning donors want to do what looks like a version of redistribution. And then perhaps in part two, you can tell us any of the concerns.
Look, fundamentally, this is really grotesque. I don't think people are putting it in context enough. Now, we have two fundamental federal programs that make a huge difference to children, which is food stamps and Medicaid. And we have overwhelming evidence we have overwhelming those programs. Children who receive those programs grow up healthier, more productive than children who don't. And so what we're saying is, well, okay, we're going to slap. Those are savagely cut in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So savage cuts to the programs that we know make a huge difference in children's lives. And never mind, that's okay, because we're going to give some kids miniature 401ks. I mean, that is a really grotesque trade-off.
So what do you think's going on here? Because it has, and maybe it's just cynical politics, even though I'm also asking you that the economics, but it's wrapping in it in a little bit of Mamdani-esque, oh, we're going to move things around while you're actually doing safety net cuts that are far worse for those kids and their households.
Well, it's cynical politics, and it's also this notion that they don't really believe in a society where we take care of people. They just believe that people should have investments. You know, back in the days of George W. Bush, he used to talk about the ownership society. And again, you know, the idea that we might actually make it our responsibility to make sure that kids have enough food and have adequate health care. No, we're not going to do that. But try and make them some of them into members of the investor class. Well, then we're for that. This is, I mean, I really kind of lose it here, but I think this is grotesque. It borders on obscene.
Yeah, and you're bothered by it because you think it's taking whatever, one drop, 1% of something, and trying to sort of draft off that, but not actually delivering. I mean, someone watching this might say, okay, Krugman's upset, but why? Didn't he once upon a time think baby bonds along with the social safety net would be fine?
Yeah, if there was an addition. But remember, the context here is fundamentally, whatever Trump may claim to be a populist, the fundamental agenda here, this is the Project 2025 agenda, the fundamental agenda is gutting the safety net, and the biggest victims of that gutting are children. And so, wow, I mean, the idea that a few $1 billion from Michael Dell, I mean, you know, that's not a big sum even for Michael Dell, let alone for America's children, that somehow compensates for this extremely anti-child policy, which is now the law of the land.